favorite cafe to game in San Francisco. And this one gamer is he's talking. I can't remember what he's talking about. He's kind of interrupting our game to talk about his 18xx game or something. And he's leaning on one of the tables, and he snaps this heavy wooden table right in half, just right in the middle. I don't know how he does it. And the owner's coming over. The owner is this very friendly, very nice Korean man with kind of broken English. And the guy just starts talking to him like nothing had happened, trying to make conversation with him, I guess trying to get out of paying for this table. If the guy's wife was there, he would have totally made him pay for the table. But I think the guy got out of it. And he's making the most awkward conversation in the world. First of all, based on the mistaken assumption that the man is Japanese. And so he's talking about like every Japanese thing he can think of to this Korean man, including mentioning that he used to go to a jiu-jitsu dojo somewhere. And then I couldn't help myself. I just said, yeah, they taught him how to snap tables in half with his ass.
Oh, that's awesome. I love the table was like gimmicked like a WWE wrestling table. Right? He gets suplexed through it. He just did it himself.
Anyway, that's all I can come up with for gaming.
No, that's a winner. Name one game that you wish you had designed?
Oh, there's several, but probably most of all, I would say London.
Okay.
By Martin Wallace.
That's
my favorite game of all time. I'm always thinking about how to try to design something kind of like it. And occasionally I come up with a game that's pretty good, but nothing like London because I'm sitting there trying to make a game like London.
Right.
But to me, it's a game that me and my kind of core group of gaming friends play again and again and again. It's several years old now. I would venture to say we still play it 5 or 6 times a year, much more than we play anything else. And we continue to find new strategic possibilities in it. It's not a heavy, modular game like the Dresden-Files, where there's lots of swap in or out content. You play every game with the same materials, and yet the variety is just amazing.
So it's got emergent gameplay.
Oh, yeah.
I love that terminology. Last question for you. What is your favorite die?
Die?
Yep. Any game, any number of sides from anywhere.
Now it's probably the Fate die. I mean, that's kind of a self-serving answer, but having initially kind of been my nemesis, I now see all these possibilities in it, so I really like it.
Cool. Do you think you're going to try to design something with it in the future?
I may. I don't like repeating myself in game design. I try to make every game pretty different from the last one. So I think I'd probably want to come up with a new way to use them if I were going to do it. But you never know. Sure. It's a pretty good mechanic, so I might just have to rate it again. Okay.
All right. Well, you did a wonderful job implementing it into the Dresden-Files. We're big fans of that game, and everybody that's listening right now, stick around. Coming up right after the break is going to be our review of the Dresden-Files. Spoiler alert, we love it. So, Eric, thank you very much for joining me and making a great game.
It would be funnier after this if you turned around and hated it. Like that would be
I'll crush your dreams for a change.
Diplomacy backstab, like, oh, wonderful, it's great having you on the show. Your game sucks.
Well, you won't know till it goes live, will you? Thank you, buddy. I appreciate you joining me.
Thanks for having me on the show. Really enjoyed it.
Horsey Avenger, Game Surplus.
Yes.
GameSurplus.com.
I know.
Your home for import board games. Let's take a look at what they've got this week.
Please do.
So the new title that they're importing this week is Karuba, which is the Rudiger Dorn Haba title.
Okay.
Yep. I'm actually would love to get that one. So
that kind of has my interest there.
We got some restocks. We got My Village, which is the Village dice game.
Mm-hmm.
They have Octo Dice, which is another one that I would love to get. That's basically Aquasphere, the dice game.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. So with Octopi.
Yeah,
they've got Port Royal and the Port Royal expansion.
Nice.
Ein Auftrag get knocked. Und Rococo.
Oh, cool.
And they have a ding and dent Rococo, which means you could get it cheap.
That's really good.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, in addition to, they've restocked Warehouse 51 because on our recommendation, they sold out of it, which was awesome. So thank you, Cardboard Insanity listeners, for going to Game Surplus and buying Warehouse 51. They got a restock of San Juan Orongo from the legendary Reiner Knizia.
Yeah, which we'll take a crack at reviewing that soon.
Yep, and the not just in future. And their special of the week, I don't know why I haven't bought one of these, is Chinatown for $22.95.
Really?
There was once upon a time, not long ago, this was a $100 game.
Seriously?
Yeah, so they're clearancing that bad boy, and I have no idea why. Probably because it's only 3 to 5 players, which is kind of sad, but it's a pure negotiation game.
Okay.
So GameSurplus.com keeps bringing in good stuff. If you're not ordering from GameSurplus.com, you should check them out. If you're ever looking for an import that you can't necessarily find someplace, they have the ability to import almost anything you ask for nicely. So GameSurplus.com, and you can follow them on Twitter at GameSurplus.
Go for it.
And now the moment you've all been waiting for. Cardboard Insanity's Game of the Week.
All right, Horsey Avenger, one of the first things I learned about you is that you love the Dresden-Files.
I do.
So one of the first times I was here, you had your books on the shelf. Mm-hmm. I remember striking up a conversation right away going, I've always wanted to read those.
And I was like, well, what are you waiting for? You really should.
And then I was like, but I can't read. But you are a huge fan of the Dresden-Files. You've read all the books except for the last one.
No, I've actually did read it.
You did?
Yes.
Oh, all right. Shows what I know. How much attention do I pay? I've read the first 2, so I'm a novice.
Yes.
I'm like nothing. Never mind.
That's okay.
So, I'm like nothing. However, this game is not at all like nothing.
No,
because
it isn't.
We're going to review the Dresden-Files cooperative card game, which is very much based on and rooted in the books.
Yes.
Except for, I would say this, and this is a cool thing. If you don't know the books, it won't matter too much because the gameplay is independent from the actual world. The cards and everything is based off of that. But the gameplay mechanisms, you don't have to understand the Dresden-Files to know
That
it.
is true.
If you understand the Dresden-Files, it takes things up a notch. Sort of like Battlestar Galactica is a fine game if you don't know Battlestar Galactica.
Right.
But as soon as you know that the Cylons look just like people and they're impersonating people and trying to kill everyone, it takes Battlestar Galactica to another level.
Right, and it does the same thing for this game.
Exactly.
You don't have to know the Dresden-Files. You really should. But even if you don't, you will enjoy the game. And if you are a fan of the Dresden-Files, you will love this game.
Yep. So the Dresden-Files cooperative card game is a 1 to 5 player card game. What we are looking at here is a print and play because this game is a Kickstarter, so we don't have an actual production copy, but everything we got is the production files.
Right.
With the caveat that the art on the cards is going to change because one of the stretch goals that was crushed in like the first 2 days was a whole lot more art for the decks, which is really cool. But let's talk a little bit about what you would get here. We'll leave the components sort of out of it, again, except for the art. I would say the art that comes on the cards here already, so the default vanilla art, of which there's going to be tons more, was actually great. I think it's like from the comic books.
Well, it's the original art that's on the book covers.
That's the back of the book decks has the back of the or the book covers on it, and so I love that because I had seen these and I was like, oh, that's so cool because those are always pictures of Harry that are very grim. They're just very dark.
They're a little dark and mysterious.
And whoever does that art, I love it. I love it. And I'll say this, as a game that is sort of a crossover game that's meant for gamers and non-gamers,
right.
The rule book on this thing is fantastic because it is so straightforward as to be almost transparent.
Now that's very high praises coming from you.
Because I am a rules snob. These were great. They're all of 12 pages. And this is how transparent they are. And I've had this thought about other games that I've played from other designers. When I read these, I'm like, I don't know that there's a game here. Well, then you play it and you're like, oh, okay, it just doesn't get in its own way. That's what it is. So for someone it's not necessarily a hardcore gamer, that's a great feature, because that means your average person will be able to pick this up and start playing it.
Well, that's a bonus right there.
It's a huge bonus.
Because
it's a huge bonus.
I'm sure a lot of people that are looking at this game are really big fans of the Dresden-Files.
And maybe not gamers. So
maybe not.
If you're not a big gamer and you love the Dresden-Files and you want to know about board games and you want to get into this one specifically for the theme, you can feel very confident this one is not going to boggle your brain. There's great illustrations. It's put together really well. So that, yes, for me, that is high praise, because a majority of the rulebooks that come out are missing things and are omitting important data, and this does not do any of that. So high praise. Let's talk a little bit about the gameplay. So this is a co-op, which is a genre that can be hit or miss for me.
That's true.
And so you got 1 to 5 players, and the number of players in the game will determine a couple different things. The 2-player game uses a different set of rules than a multiplayer game, just in the way that your character decks are constructed. And also, based on player count, you'll have different number of starting cards in your hand, which will really affect the game, and that'll make every game different.
Yes.
The long and short of this is that you're going to be playing through a book deck. And these are based on the actual stories. The game comes with the first 5 stories, and the expansions that have already been locked on the Kickstarter offer you more.
Right.
So I think you can get the first, I want to say it's 11 books altogether if you get the 3 expansions. The book decks are a deck of 12 cards that are, again, based in the story. So there'll be foes that are characters, and then cases that are events that happen. And then there's some obstacles and some advantages, things that'll help you. Essentially, you're going to shuffle these cards out, and there's 2 rows on the board. Each row has 6 slots in it, and you're going to lay out a row of 6 on the top row, and then a row of 6 on the bottom row. And then you're going to start playing. That's really it. That's the setup. It's very, very simple. So essentially, what you've got is a play area in the middle of the board that everyone can see, and you're sort of going to attempt to manipulate this through the game. It's very much a puzzle. I would not liken it to Pandemic. In Pandemic, the game feels like it's actively trying to kill you.
That's true.
In here, it's almost like you're going to be solving these mini puzzles along the way, and there's some spots where you can identify, well, if we can do this thing, it'll do this thing, which will do that thing, and you can identify some linchpin spots. So each character's deck is very different, and they're very thematic to the characters. You always have to have Harry. Harry has an ability that's very important to the game, and in the beginning of the game, I would say you'd be very hard to win without it, although I would like to try playing without it. But towards the end of the game, once you beat the obstacles that are on the board, Harry's ability becomes useless, which is a very interesting twist.
Yes.
So he's real powerful in the beginning, and then towards the second half of the game, he almost becomes not as good.
He needs the help of his friends. Go figure.
Oh. Damn, that's thematic.
Right.
I didn't think about that.
Yeah, he goes out guns blazing. And
Listen, you can't be the brains and the beauty of this show, okay?
Today I have to.
That's true. So this game uses fate points, which are essentially action points. Cards are going to have a cost, so you can play a card and it'll say, example, 3 fate points, and it's going to let you do something. So one of the things you're going to be doing is managing this pool of 13 fate points. At the normal level, you start with 8 available. And one of the things you can do on a turn is you can discard a card to generate more fate points.
Right.
What makes that really cool is that in a co-op game, and especially the way this game works with the puzzles, if you really want to do something, I have to discard one of my cards essentially so you can do it. Or the person to your left, to your right, has to discard a card. And so one of the things that this game does, I think, really well is it gets rid of alpha player.
Yes.
Because I can't just say, you do this, you do this, you do this, because to do that, we're going to need to be able to discard things. And and the rules about limiting table talk, where you can't say specifically what you have, which you can say like, well, I can do some damage,
right?
But I can't do the damage unless this guy discards a card so I can play it. normally one person would be like, well, tell me what you have.